entirely unintentional. Rob, tell us, first of all, what does the Director of Performance Marketing do? How is it defined at Purple?
So we have a lot of different channels that we work with. The channels that I have a team that supports me on and that I directly manage include native, search, paid, organic. We've got display, we've got affiliate, we've got video, we've got third-party marketplaces like Amazon and the search that goes into that. So those are the performance marketing channels that we define.
Okay, so yesterday, as contrast, remember, yesterday we heard from Sears, we heard from Volvo, we heard from HP, we heard from a lot of legacy brands, both old and new legacy brands. But certainly, that in contrast to Purple. Purple started in 2015 as a Kickstarter project. 2015. How many of you, before walking in this room, had heard of Purple Mattress? 4 years. You built a brand. Congratulations. Let's pick your brain, all right, about how you did this. For those of you who are not familiar with the brand, let's start with one of their sort of familiar ads, usually running on YouTube. That's where we tend to see this one, right?
Can we get sound?
Memory foam out of the bedroom. Only Purple passes the durability test, body heat test, and the all-new HED test, or human egg drop test for the layman. The best test to determine a mattress's comfort and support. Ready, Billy?
No, I just have to...
Perfect. Just look at how the Purple Smart Comfort Grid, made from a super comfy yet ultra-supportive material called hyperelastic polymer, cradled those unfertilized chickies. And yeah, they're pretty real. Now, how about that memory foam?
What is the creative strategy at Purple? And how do you use it to distinguish it yourself from how many competitors in the space?
I mean, there's very low barrier to entry for those who want to come and just deliver a mattress in a box. But we have a product that's truly differentiated. And so our challenge is, how do we help our consumers understand that we are something that's truly different? So we use video, a lot of long-form video. That's a 40-second cut. We have 4-minute versions that we run all the time on YouTube, on Facebook, and it's the way that we've chosen to express our brand and help people understand who we are. We want to have a fun, creative feel. We want to have that initial hook at the beginning that keeps people watching, because it takes a little bit of time to help somebody understand that, you know what, there is a difference between what we have and what's traditionally in the market, what's available in just your basic spring mattress or your basic memory foam mattress. But it's hard to do that in just a static ad or in a 3-second, 6-second bumper video. So we use as much duration as we can, and we're fortunate enough that through billions of views across YouTube and Facebook, on YouTube alone, we're over 1 billion minutes watched, meaning that people are clicking and they're staying. They're not skipping when we have it as a pre-roll paid spot. They're staying through for a long time, and that's because we try and be entertaining as we go along.
So you're using humor, plus you're foreshadowing some feature attributes that they'll be seeing later on.
Yeah, it's like every 5 seconds we treat it like a new opportunity for somebody to skip. We have a bunch of different iterations and tests that we do verbally with the script. We have different visuals that we're testing, and so every 10 seconds, we want to be able to test and say, is there some audience drop-off? We'll actually run with maybe a dozen different versions of an ad and then monitor the performance of it until we decide which one's going to go live, and we'll push that one for the higher volume.
Now, at the top end, are you creating this with that in mind in a sort of modular fashion so that you can start swapping in different pieces of creative to take advantage of that knowledge, that data that you're getting back?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are trying to do that as much as possible. We're very fortunate to have an in-house creative team. We have videographers and directors and photographers and writers and everyone that's on site. We have our own sound stage, so as much as possible, we try and work directly hand in hand with them to get the assets that are not just thought of from the top down of what do we want our brand to look like, but we think from the bottom up of, we want this to be placed on this platform, what's going to perform best on this platform versus this platform, and how do we create to that.
And how does an ad and an approach like this impact the full funnel? How do you know that this is actually impacting the journey that people are taking, or in some way shortening that journey?
Well, there's a lot to be said about how you measure the attribution of click-through versus view-through and multiple touch points along the way. I think previously we've had other like our former CMO.
Yeah, your former CMO was here, and he said that it takes 14 to 17 touch points before someone's ready to buy.
Yeah, we've continued to measure that and to work with people from the top of the funnel down, and working within a shorter window of 14-day, 30-day attribution, that may be the case, but it takes a lot to make somebody problem aware and solution aware. A mattress isn't something that somebody buys every single month. It's a 5-10 year cycle. And so when we measure all the way back 90 days, we're now seeing over 100 touch points along that customer journey. It might sound like a lot, but when you look at it, it's less than 2 per day across that journey. But we try and do as much as possible to keep top of mind and build that brand awareness all the way through.
And does that, so now, the fact that several years ago when your CMO was here, we was talking about 14 to 17 touch points, and now you're talking about over 100, does that suggest there's been an evolution in the ways in which you're actually measuring and thinking about the customer journey?
I would say that there's been an evolution in measurement. We've grown into a lot of other channels, and we've been working as hard as we can to just get a larger slice of the pie, like any business does in their growth. And so being, around 4 years old, that's part of our journey is, well, we'll get everyone from Kickstarter, and then we'll launch a channel, and we'll do as much as we can on YouTube, and we'll do as much as we can on Facebook. And then, well, now we've got, 20 different channels and partners that we work with, and it makes it more difficult to track one-to-one relationship. If I was just going to start a business and I put all of my money into a single billboard, I could be fairly certain that most of my additional new traffic could be coming from that or from returning customers. But once you have 20 different channels that you're working with, there's a lot more measurement that needs to be involved to be able to understand what's the incrementality of each one. Excellent
segue into attribution modeling, because I know that one of the interesting things, obviously we heard from one of your partners earlier, is as you start broadening your scope of channel partners, as you start deepening your understanding and looking at that longer trajectory of buying, attribution modeling becomes a lot more difficult. You guys have, I think, it sounds like a unique approach to how you think about attribution and how you're actually doing it in-house. So tell us how you do it.
I don't know that I'd say it's entirely unique. I think attribution is one of the problems that everyone in this room would say is something that's a challenge across our organizations. And so we try and solve it in a lot of different ways. I would say that it's been said there's no right multi-touch attribution model. There's only useful ones, but they're all wrong in some way, and you just kind of have to deal with that. You have to work with it. What we do is we try and double and triple and quadruple check what we're doing. So we'll use the in-channel attribution to understand what Google's telling us it's getting in as far as click-through and view-through conversion. We'll have it segmented with 4 different pixels, so we'll see 1-day, 7-day, 14-day, 30-day type of conversion windows that we can look back and say, all right, if we're going to launch a promo over a weekend, what's the 1-day performance supposed to look like, rather than having to wait 30 days and compare it. We'll be using some third-party incrementality studies and tests with existing channels, with new tests that we're doing with new partnerships to say, okay, what's Kantar and Millward Brown and Nielsen going to say about this? Does it line up with the data that we're seeing? Then we have click tags and view tags that we're doing for multi-touch attribution, so we layer that on top as another answer. We have post-conversion surveys that go out to customers to say, how'd you hear about us? There's over an attribution bias in that one. We even do unique geo-testing where we'll go dark in some channels, or we'll go 50% or 150% in different regions based on a revenue per capita basis, so that we have equality among the different DMAs, and then say, okay, how do we back that in to say, our regression model shows that this really is more incremental than another one. So just kind of layering all those together, and then just a touch of listening to your gut. That's how we do it.
So pull back from all of that. And by the way, I'm not sure everybody out there is doing that, what you just described. But pull back from that, how has your media spend evolved, just say in the last year, in terms of where have you seen the biggest shifts in your spend?
I mean, there's a lot of programmatic that we've been doing across display, across video, that's been exciting for us, where we're applying and layering in different data sets that are available. Amazon is a marketplace that we sell on, but not only that, Amazon advertising is kind of this DSP that's available to us where we can layer some of their in-market audience data where they know who's shopping for furniture, and we can go and run campaigns off of that. We work with Verizon Media, and we do a lot of native advertising there, and we've done more with them because they've had their partnership with Microsoft to take more of that O&O inventory and start to say, all right, it's premium, the placements make sense, the performance is there, that we can continue to scale up in those ways as well.
Is this also the way, I mean, we talked about how your creative strategy, in some sense, is keeping your competition in mind and differentiating yourself from that. How is the media strategy doing the same?
Well, we see a lot of our competition trying to follow what we're doing. Honestly, there's some that will try and have long-form video on YouTube. They try and use humor, and we can kind of feel that there's a lot of elements of what we've done 3-4 years ago that they're bringing right now, and we have new ones popping up every single month that we're trying to track. I'd say that what we're doing and what we're able to do now as a slightly more mature brand that's still young and growing rapidly is to be able to take some of what used to be every single dollar for dollar return on ad spend and understand, I think, as Joe was saying from Agency Within, that you have to think both directions in the funnel. How's your performance spend going to be impacting the brand awareness and the emotional connection that people have to you? And then vice versa, how do you spend in a branding budget, but then make sure that that's pointing towards the results that you're looking at?
And I want to drill into some of the details, some of these tactics, because in talking to you beforehand, there were some things that you guys are doing and discovering that help differentiate yourself from some of these competitors within very familiar channels, like YouTube. I mean, for months and months, all I got were purple ads in front of me. Then I got Nectar ads, then I got Lisa ads. You've been finding some interesting new uses of YouTube that I wanted you to talk about that help you pull away from that sort of cycle of relentless pre-rolls.
Yeah, we find that, and probably many of the brands in the room are finding the same. Sears talked about this even yesterday, that if you just are doing the same things that you've always done, people will come, they'll take your playbook, and they'll try and take over your market share. And so we're trying to evolve, we're trying to find new areas. Influencers is one area that we're trying to bridge the gap between influencers and affiliate. How are we using influencers in a way that we can track the performance of it, that we can hold them accountable to that, and then how can we even digitally make more connections so that their audience then becomes part of our audience, even if they don't click through the first time. And so there's an opportunity, if you haven't already done this, if you're on YouTube, working with YouTube partners and affiliates, you can connect the back end of their channel to your ads account so that that builds an audience. And so part of our negotiation with new influencers is, hey, would you allow us access to your audience so that we can continue the conversation? We can build the brand awareness that they've had with your organization, with you as an individual influencer, but we can also continue to kind of drive the conversation in a way that doesn't impact the influencer's authenticity, because the ads are then coming from us. The end consumer isn't always aware that it's because we have that partnership in place, but we've been able to kind of bring them into the funnel.
Is that our next clip illustrates that, I think?
I'd say we wanted to share another video here that just is how we're continuing to use the influencers, and this is a way where we've got the rights to use their videos and to repurpose them and to cut them down. And so again, just thanking our in-house creative team, we're able to take hundreds of videos that are generated by these influencers and then cut it up in a way that we can have this live on our own YouTube account, and we can push it as part of our sequencing of videos.
Let's take a look.
Purple. This mattress is seriously amazing.
It feels amazing.
I have absolutely been loving this bed. Jasper absolutely loves it.
This is pretty much what it's made of inside. It's really, really gushy, but also really supportive.
Yeah, they're so soft and comfortable.
There it is. There's the purple mattress. And they are filled with good things and no chemicals. That was the biggest thing for me.
It doesn't get any pressure points.
I've got the Purple 3 guys, and this little smart grid technology, amazing.
I'm kind of a skeptic when it comes to something that's super popular and super talked about, and I was like, it's really as good as people say. It's legitimately the best thing we've tried. It's different.
Purple has legit changed our lives. We're feeling much more rested, our energy levels are better.
So none of that was filmed by our team. All of that was user-generated content. A lot of it was just done simply on an iPhone, and we love the authenticity and the feel that that has, because it's not us speaking about our brand. It's anyone who's experienced our product talking about it in very familiar ways. And you don't need to know any one of those influencers or follow them to be able to kind of get that, oh, this is a person speaking to me. Basically, it's word of mouth at scale is what we're trying to do with our influencer program.
I didn't notice your logo in there.
Yeah, so that's something where in most of our videos, we do try and put our logo into the corner. That one, we were switching between vertical and horizontal formats based on what was filmed, and we didn't want to have kind of that. We actually intended on that one for it to not have our logo so that it would look and feel more like it was just coming straight from those that were speaking about our brand. But I will say it's had a very significant impact when we were testing that on our own YouTube channel. We'd run a video and people could skip anywhere between 6 and 29 seconds of a 4-minute video. Well, they might not yet know who we are as a brand, but they'll be like, oh yeah, there's a human egg drop, there's a Goldilocks, there's a Sasquatch, and they're talking about a mattress. But to make that connection and then say, if we run the exact same ads, but we just put a little watermark logo in the corner, then we see the awareness lift. And we've actually done a study on that to say, this is truly impactful, and this is bringing people that are skipping our video back in through brand search, back in through organic, through paid, and other channels, just because we added that logo. So that's something we recommend for all of our videos and for anyone else who's on YouTube as well.
Do you target that particular clip to particular audiences? Does this service a particular part of the funnel, those testimonials?
Yeah, we're always testing kind of where in a sequence things will make the most sense and where it impacts different audiences. So we try and segment our audience based on which product they might be into, which demographic they are, and how they've interacted with our brand and what those behaviors are telling us. And then if they've taken certain actions, then we start to accelerate or decelerate based on their behavior. So this is just one piece of it so that we keep it fresh, we mix it up a little bit so they see what's coming out of our studios, and then they can see that user-generated content just kind of in that mix of 10 or 20 videos that they're going to be seeing in sequence.
Now, apart from YouTube, and every time I talk to you guys, we always surface these cool little nuggets of insight that you get because you're testing so regularly, so deeply. We talked about your search strategy and the ways in which your paid search strategy has evolved recently, and some things you found about how you paying, especially at the top of the funnel for brand ads.
Yeah, I had a gut feeling when I joined Purple that, you know, there's a lot of areas that we had high levels of investment, but some of those hadn't been tested to the fullest, and one of those is brand search. And so when we're paying, you know, a premium to get into that first paid position on an ad on Google or on Microsoft to say, you know, we want to be in that 1.0 average position. I know average position has gone away, but this was around 9-12 months ago when I decided let's test that. Let's see what will happen if we bid down. And so I just modified a script that was pretty simple to say if average position is higher than 2, bid down until we get close to that 2 range. What's going to be the savings we see there, and are we going to see an impact to revenue? Or are the customers that are so aware of our brand that they're typing Purple Mattress, are they going to continue to, you know, go down and click if we're in the second position? Are they going to click on the organic ad? And we saw we have a data science and analytics team that helps us to understand the impact of these type of tests, and they were able to look into it and say, yeah, there's hardly an impact on revenue, but by bidding down from the first to the second position, even though we have competitors trying to conquest and trying to take that top spot, our customers are still coming through, and we're able to recognize thousands of dollars of savings every single day by just not paying for that top spot.
And again, this probably an advantage that you're getting from your brand advertising that you're doing elsewhere is impacting the way you're seeing a unique result there that might not be true for another brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where I'd say test and learn. It's not always going to be the case for everyone, but the halo impact of our ad spend is seen across the board, down to our organic search, to our wholesale partnerships. We're in 1,500 stores across the nation that we don't own, and we just started launching some of our own flagship stores. So we have about 5 stores right now, launching more through the end of the quarter into next year. But you know, with 1,500 stores, the foot traffic that goes in there, asking to see a Purple doesn't just come out of nowhere. You know, it's like you're not walking to the conference, there's other touch points along the way. So when we work with wholesale partners, we love that they bring an opportunity for somebody to try it before they order to their house. Yes, you still have a 100-night trial anytime you order, but some customers are still hesitant until they can feel and experience it for themselves. And so having wholesale partners, that halo effect is even more present. We can kind of see that is happening where we're driving the traffic to these stores. As soon as they open, or as soon as they become a partner of ours, they've already been open for a while, but their traffic shoots up because they end up on our /stores page and people go want to try out a Purple.
By the way, in that test, have you found, what's the point of diminishing returns? At 3, at rank 3, do you really start seeing a bigger impact on performance, or is 2 the sweet spot?
Well, so that's the fun thing about some of the metrics changing and average position going away, is that we're not actually able to tell in the same manner when we started the test on if we're in the 1.7 or the 2.0 or the 2.6. Now it's about if you're in the top position or absolute top percentage and the impression share. So we've had to change our metrics around a little bit, and so there's not an easy apples-to-apples comparison, but we do continue to see a marginal incremental impact of having paid search presence, even when we're not in the 1 position. So I'm sure that once we get to the 3 or the 4, we end up below the fold, that's going to start to diminish.
I want, by the way, as you start moving in, you're starting to move into TV and OTT.
We've been there, yep.
So what are you, tell us a little bit about, as dyed-in-the-wool performance marketers who started that way, who built a brand principally on performance, now reshifting and thinking more about brand. What are you encountering as you're starting to bring those disciplines and that data into these channels?
Oh, it's fun to launch any new channel and to see how's that going to be impactful. Again, with so many existing touch points, so many existing channels, when we start something new and we start to scale it up, how are we going to measure it? How are we going to know that that makes sense? One thing we do with TV is we like to try and look at if we have a spot run in a certain locality, you know, we'll take the data for the next 3 to 5 minutes after that of lift in branded search for those areas to say, okay, we just had a spot go out in Baltimore, Maryland. Are we seeing an impact in the next 3 to 5 minutes? And how do we attribute that based on the number of sales per minute that we're receiving, based on the traffic, and say, okay, maybe we can say TV has had around this much. It's kind of a little bit fuzzy. We have to trust our gut. We have to be able to trust that we can spend in on a branding manner and not need to track every single dollar that comes out of that, and it's going to fall into other channels. But that's one of the ways that we try and use it and measure it. And then when we talk about OTT and connected TV, there's more and more ability now than ever to work with partners that can connect back for cross-device conversion. They understand what's in a household. They understand who's there. And using kind of all the information that's available, we like to say, you know, we'll push something across all these different screens and be able to track with some level of understanding, including our post-purchase survey. How'd you hear about us? Hulu, you know, something like that will pop up, and we'll understand some of the value that's coming out of those.
So to wrap this, and please think of some questions because I want to go to Q&A in a second. How has your vision of the relationship between brand and performance evolved? And moving forward, what are we going to see from Purple in terms of bringing those two together? Most of the D2Cs, like you, started building a brand on performance and seeing the cast off from there, now starting to pivot towards, as they're competing in a cluttered marketplace, needing to heavy up on branded advertising, but still maintain those ties to that performance legacy and devotion to data. What is your broad vision of the ways in which branding and performance relate as you're moving forward?
Well, first, I think I want to ask by a show of hands here, who has a distinct branding budget versus performance budget? Raise your hand if you have a branding budget. And then raise your hand if you don't have a branding budget, everything's a performance budget. Okay, so we see a good split there. There are a lot of organizations who don't work with that kind of branding finance mentality to say we're willing to invest in these areas. There are some organizations where I know people who work there. I've worked at some of these where, you know, basically any spend that might have been intended for performance, if it doesn't perform, we'll just say that was branding. You know, that's all that was. And then we don't have to worry about the KPIs that are attached to it. But what we're trying to do at Purple is to say any time that we're investing in a way that's branding, how can we make it as impactful as possible? You may have seen that, you know, we've done some partnerships in the past with Disney. Well, if we're just going to, you know, have an ad out there that's just, you know, Purple plus Disney, way to go, you know, and not measure it and just throw it out on linear TV because we want to get impressions. That's one way to do it. But we'd also prefer to say, well, how can we push that in rather than linear TV? Let's do that as a YouTube masthead. Let's measure all the clicks and the audience that we can build off of it, push that forward and say, how does this turn into the next level of audience that we're looking for? How does that audience turn into the next interacting of clicking through onto our page? They end up in our retargeting pool. We can continue to push forward on that. So anything that we have as an opportunity to spend into branding, we're always thinking about how do we get more and more performance out of it.
Rob, thank you very much. We've got time for questions from you guys. What do you want to ask Rob? These guys have been testing like
Someone
crazy.
over here?
They're a wealth of knowledge. Every time I talk to them, they blow my mind.
Oh, you have a mic.
Sorry, it's me again, David from Reprise. First of all, I love the brand strategy, love the brand voice, but how do you find a balance between keeping the brand top of mind for people, but also oversaturation for someone who's not in market anymore? Full disclosure, I was mattress shopping during Black Friday, tried a Purple, but did not purchase Purple, and I still see all these ads all the time on YouTube, on Instagram. So just curious, like, is there a drop-off point for users who are not engaging as much anymore?
Yeah, if you just check out and go to our /thank you page, then you will never get an ad from us again. So that's all you got to do. I think that it's a great point, and it's one that's difficult. You know, if somebody goes and they check out from a mattress firm, we're not seeing them on our confirmation page. We're not able to take them out of our funnel immediately. And so in our sequencing, in the behaviors that we're trying to measure when somebody's clicking into our site, there is a drop-off point. We have different audiences that we create with 30-day windows, with 90-day windows, and we go dark at a certain period where people have fallen out of that in-market audience. And so it's something that doesn't happen immediately, and it's not a perfect science because we can't track every single type of conversion that happens, or if somebody converts at a competitor's page, that's nearly impossible for us. But you know, when we're using Google's data or Verizon's data or somebody else to try and understand, is somebody in market for this category of furniture, for mattresses or something else like that, they're doing the same process where they're cycling through and letting people fall out of those buckets. And so we do the same thing with our retargeting. If somebody's in there, and then after 30 to 90 days, if they're not continuing to interact with our brand, then they might not see it. But if you keep watching our videos and liking our videos, then even just the fact that you've completed a view is something that indicates maybe there's some interest there. Even if they're not ready to convert, we might keep trickling advertisements that direction.
Rob Towne, we love having you here. Thanks for bringing Purple back. Grab this guy in a round table. He's got loads of insights.